If you started a business with three people who knew each other for 20 years, this is not that, not to become victims of social engineering. They are targets. Someone working on classified materials at the CIA.
My name is Michael. I am a business consumer. Thank you for joining. So there is a customer service that usually front line for any company communications coming in. How can the company protect customer service specifically from being breached?
The number one vulnerability in every single business's customer service department are the humans working there. The first thing you got to do is really educate them that they are targets. They are going to be social engineered. There are going to be attempts to trick them into doing things that will allow criminals to take advantage of them and the company. Many customer service departments spend so much time educating people on how to be courteous and how to handle irate customers and how, what the policies are and how to handle when to escalate, and don't educate their workers on the fact that they're the first line, not just of contact with the company, but of defense of the company. And whether it's by phone or by email, criminals and other hackers could attempt to trick people into doing things. So tricking them into giving account information for someone else, into allowing them to reset someone else's password, into providing access to something, some fraudulent transaction. There's so many things that they could do.
Easy money.
Giving away contact information for someone else in the company. There are many things they could do. The bottom line is we cannot create a list of everything. So while you want to train people on specific threats, you also need them to understand that they are targets. And every time they get a call or an email, there's a possibility it's an attack. So just keep that in the back of your mind. Again, not actively, but in terms of belief, and you act differently. The second thing you need to understand is that internal resources are at least as big a danger as external. Customer service is an area where there's a lot of turnover of staff, especially today. In fact, many places can't even staff their customer service departments if they're in the US today. There's also a lot of times where companies have outsourced to foreign countries, and you'll find turnover in those organizations. So you have to keep in mind that, if you started a business with three people who knew each other for 20 years, this is not that. This is essentially, in many cases, you'll have a core team, but you'll have plenty of quote unquote strangers moving in and out that you don't really know. So you need to have defenses, not just against external threats, but make sure that you're giving people access to what they need to know to do their jobs, but not to other systems, because it could lead to problems. And again, if you think about a sophisticated criminal, if they know you're hiring in your customer service department and they are looking specifically to target you, they may apply, their friend may apply, who knows? It could be targeted, or it could be an opportunistic person got a job and realizes, hey, they have access to the payroll system and they're going to take advantage of it. So you got to make sure people have access to what they should have access to and not more. And also train them not to become victims of social engineering. I would start with those two. Obviously, all computers need security software, and you need, all the technical stuff and other, classic information security defense mechanisms. But in the end, you got to deal with the humans first, or none of it's going to work.
How do you actually run the training in such a way that you instill the message into the people not to click on unknown links? How do you deliver this important message to the minds of the employees?
No matter how much security training we give, we still find people making the dumbest of mistakes. Any training that we give has to account for the fact that these things are likely to happen. So you do want to give a quote unquote assessment test or some sort of training, I would say immediately after the training, and then repeat examples as you just mentioned. My personal feeling is if you reward employees in a meaningful way for practicing good cybersecurity hygiene, good cyber hygiene. So the people who, successfully do well on an assessment and then don't click the links, that are sent every 2 weeks to them or what have you for a period of time, get some sort of bonus and some sort of recognition, that can be beneficial.
I award Gryffindor House 60 points.
In the end, that is a skill that's beneficial for the company, right? So it's something that you should be rewarding them for. I find that works much better than punishing those who don't. However, I will say that there are companies that if someone is consistently failing these types of assessments and is consistently clicking on links that do take action, adverse action in terms of that employee because they view the employee as dangerous to the company. And in many cases, that's actually true, right? This person could lead to a ransomware attack, could lead to a data breach, etc. And at a certain point, if the person is not able to understand not to click links or not to do other risky things, it means they don't necessarily have the skills to do the job that entails interacting with sensitive data and sensitive systems. So these are real issues. So there's no magic bullet, but rewarding people and frequent testing, not just training, but testing, and repeated testing, repeated messaging. So the attitude is the number one thing. And you can't teach attitude, but you can demonstrate it. If management shows that they believe that they are potential targets and that everybody is a potential target, and that's why they're investing in training people and assessing people and rewarding people for good behavior, sometimes that can help.
Joseph, thank you very much. How often shall the company do security hygiene training?
How often to do security hygiene training and assessments and other matters like that really depend on the nature of the organization and what's involved and the level of the personnel involved. There's a very big difference between someone who's utilizing a credit card terminal in a mom and pop candy store in terms of security risk versus someone working on classified materials at the CIA, right? And there can be completely different mechanisms of training, completely different qualifications, completely different consequences for violating the rules, right? In one case, probably no consequence. In the other one, the person can go to jail. So it really depends on the organization. So you have to make sure that the training really leads to belief that this is important and correct advice, that they're learning the right thing to do, not that you're giving them instructions that they're going to ignore when something actually happens.
How do you go about assessing how much security training customer service of a particular company would need for whatever they do?
You really need to actually back up, which is a risk analysis, because it could be that they're going to discover during a risk analysis that it's not an issue of training. Hey, we've let all the employees access all the data in the company, and it's the right solution for that is not to train them how to protect all the data. It's to stop them from having access to a lot of the stuff, and then train them how to handle their jobs securely on the stuff that they should have access to. So you determine what to do from a security standpoint after you've performed an analysis of what you have and what the risks are. The risks to that mom and pop shop and what they have are very different than the CIA, right? So step one is the analysis of what the risks are, what exists today. Then you look at, all right, here's the things that aren't addressed, and how do we best address them? And some of it may be technology, some of it may be training, some of it may be policy, some of it may be simply to say, hey, you know what, this risk isn't worth addressing because it's either not really dangerous for us, or there's no real way to address it, and the effects of it are so minimal that we're willing to bear that risk. Or there may be some where you say, look, we can't fully address it with technology and training, so we're also going to get cybersecurity insurance, cyber liability insurance. So yes, we will train our employees, and yes, we will put in technologies to address that, but we understand that the risk in this particular case could be catastrophic. So if something really does go wrong, if we got it right, we may shield against 99% of attacks or 99.99, but if that 0.01 gets through, what do we have to protect us? We may need also cybersecurity insurance, and so that may be part of the equation as well. So it could be human. You got to address the human issues. You got to address technology. You got to address decisions whether to do anything. You got to address insurance. All different approaches to fixing whatever discrepancies there are between the level of risk that you have and the level of risk that you're willing to take.
Joseph, thank you very much. I think it was a very productive interview. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much for having me, and I hope I didn't scare you.